Welcome to reality. You're now on the Code of Mind channel. The screen lights up in complete darkness. Shadows move like a cat inside the matrix. This is not a movie. This is your life, an epic saga where you are the main character. Around you are extras, NPCs without a spark of soul, and psychopaths who change everything. A new era has begun, the era of empaths. Breathe and wake up. You stand at the center of your own story, even if you have never thought of yourself that way. Everything that happens passes through your perception. Reality does not exist for you in any way other than through your gaze. Every person, every event, every conflict is a scene in which you are always in the frame. And here is what matters. You are not a spectator of someone else's film. You are the source of the angle. There are people who live as if they are background. They repeat habitual phrases, move along the trajectory of should, react by inertia, without an inner question, without an inner observer. But if you are listening to this, you are no longer background, because you feel the difference. You notice inconsistencies. You catch moments when something doesn't add up, when the conversation seems normal but inside there is emptiness, when events seem random but feel like a sign. This is heightened sensitivity to the structure of reality. Have you noticed how sometimes the world seems to accelerate? Events cluster more densely. Decisions begin to have consequences faster than before. This is not happening to the world. It is happening to your point of awareness. When a person begins to see more, the system begins to respond differently. It tests how stable you are. Losses, unexpected meetings, sharp turns, like a test of maturity. You are not just living through events, you are shaping the trajectory. And this is where the difference between an empath and automatism begins. An empath is not too sensitive. An empath is a person with depth of response. They do not simply react, they experience. They feel not only their own pain but the pain of others. They notice shades of tone. They detect falseness without words. And that is precisely why they often think something is wrong with them, because most people do not see that deeply. When you begin to see the structure, you stop being controlled. You are no longer obligated to play the role of a victim of circumstances. You can reassemble your reaction. You can stop automatism. You can refuse to continue someone else's script. And this is the moment when a person becomes a player. You do not simply exist in a simulation, you influence it with your state. Notice something simple. When you are in fear, there are more reasons for anxiety around you. When you are in clarity, solutions appear faster. When you are in chaos, chaos intensifies. This is cognitive focusing. You amplify what your attention is directed toward, and if you are aware of this, you are no longer a secondary character. You can choose to continue playing by old patterns or step out of them. You can continue justifying destructive connections or end your participation. You can live in automatic mode or begin acting consciously. No one will come to appoint you as the main character. This status is not granted from outside. It appears the moment you take responsibility for your inner mode. And then reality stops being random. It becomes a response. And only one question remains. Will you continue playing by inertia, or will you begin writing the next chapter yourself? Who are the extras? They appear every day. The cashier with the same intonation, the neighbor who greets you by template, the colleague whose phrases seem copied from a manual of social politeness. Their role is to fill the space, to make the picture of reality dense, saturated, convincing. Imagine a movie without background actors, empty streets, lonely heroes, silence. The scenery would be too obvious. Extras create the feeling that the world lives on its own. But if you look closely, there is no depth in their presence. They do not ask questions, they do not seek meaning. They do not break their own scripts. Conversations with them are almost always predictable. There is no inner movement, no sense that behind the words stands the space of lived experience. You interact and feel no resonance. No depth of contact emerges. An empath notices this especially sharply. This absence. It feels like you reached out your hand and touched a surface without warmth. Extras do not cause harm. They are simply not engaged in the game at the level of awareness. Their reactions are automatism. Their role is maintaining the stability of the scenery. They do not evolve beside you. They do not enter your key turning points. They come and disappear without leaving an inner trace. And here is an important detail. If you stop focusing on them, they literally dissolve from your line. You change the environment, and they are no longer there. Extras exist in the zone of your peripheral perception. They do not demand energy. They do not involve you in scripts. Their task is to maintain the sense that the world is dense and continuous. But you are searching for non-density. You are searching for depth, and that is what distinguishes you. You are not satisfied with the background. You feel where there is living presence and where there is merely function. And when you begin to distinguish this, you stop being angry at emptiness because you understand. The background is not obligated to be the main character. You are at the center of your scene, and not every face in the frame must be part of your story. And within this structure of extras or NPCs, a completely different type appears. The plot unfolds, and he enters. The psychopath. And it is important to immediately remove the cinematic image of a maniac. A psychopath is not necessarily a criminal, not necessarily aggressive, and not necessarily someone who looks dangerous. Often it is the opposite. In the clinical sense, psychopathy is a pronounced deficit of empathic response and deep attachment. It is a person with reduced capacity for compassion, absence of guilt in the conventional sense, no internal regulation through conscience. Emotions are shallow, instrumental. He may be charming, appear successful, say the right words, seem confident, make a strong impression. But inside there is no depth of experiencing another person as alive. He understands emotions cognitively. He can describe them, can perform them, but does not live them the way an empath does. A psychopath is not an automatic program. He is conscious. He observes. He analyzes. He senses weak points. He quickly reads where your pain is, where your fear is, where your need is. If an NPC reproduces a template, the psychopath uses templates as tools. He does not live on autopilot. He manages. And that is precisely why he seems stronger. A psychopath often gives the impression of a person with powerful energy. Why? Because he does not doubt, does not suffer from guilt, does not deeply worry about consequences, does not spend resources on inner conflicts. His confidence is not constrained by empathy, and an empath feels this as strength. You see a person who speaks boldly, acts quickly, is not afraid, does not get lost, and inside arises attraction, as if he is fate. His cold, rigid wholeness looks like support. How does the script begin? First, charm. He is attentive. He seems to see you completely. He adjusts to your values, interests, pains. You feel, he understands me. But this is not depth. It is scanning. The psychopath perfectly senses what is important to you and returns it in the form of reflection. This is the stage of idealization. You think, here he is, finally. But then another mode turns on, not charm, but control. When the connection is established, when you are emotionally involved, when you begin to invest, the balance starts to shift. He devalues, tests boundaries, provokes, disappears and returns, changes tone. And the most frightening part? He does it coldly because his goal is not connection. His goal is reaction. A psychopath does not feed on love, does not feed on care, does not feed on the body. He feeds on your emotional involvement, your pain, your attempts to understand, your justifications, your desire to save, your fear of losing. He needs response. And if you are an empath, you have plenty of that response. In the Matrix metaphor, the psychopath truly feels like a boss level. Extras are scenery, but the psychopath is the trial. Because he tests your boundaries, exposes your dependence on recognition, reveals where you are afraid to be alone, uncovers your need to earn love. He becomes the mirror of your weak spots, and that is why he feels fated. The most painful moment of realization comes when you understand. What felt like passion was strategy. What felt like depth was mirroring. What felt like destiny was a script. And here the real arc begins. Not a battle with the psychopath, but an exit from your dependence on him. He does not come to destroy you. He comes to show you where you still have not chosen yourself. And then the question is no longer about him. It is about you. Do you continue playing his game or do you step out of it? Because the psychopath is not the end of the story. He is the point where the empath either breaks or becomes an adult. The psychopath clings to gaslighting, love-bombing drama. He becomes the center of the villain arc in your life. Why you? Because you are fuel, empathy, light. He mirrors your fears, abandonment, unworthiness. In the simulation, he is a karmic boss. He breaks the ego, teaches resilience. He is main because he is a catalyst. Without him, stagnation. With him, transformation. The pattern, idealization, devaluation, discard. But you feel, this is not the end. The psychopath plays the role so you level up. Remember, his lies hurt, but they reveal your strength. He is the mirror of your shadows. Do not leave broken. Leave this game as a king. You walk away. And this is where the most revealing part begins. Not silence, not acceptance, but escalation. Messages. Attempts to provoke pity. Sharp accusations. Sudden revelations. Sometimes pressure through third parties. This is not love. This is loss of control. And here it is important to understand one thing. It is no longer about him. It is about what he can hook on to inside you. Codependency is not a diagnosis and not weakness. It is an internal crack. The desire to be needed. Fear of loneliness. The habit of tolerating. The belief that if you explain properly, a person will change. The psychopath does not create this wound, he finds it, and as long as the wound is active, he will return. Not because he loves you, but because he sees the source of reaction. If you respond, the game continues. If you justify yourself, the game continues. If you try to prove you are a good person, the game continues. Many ask, why does the same type keep appearing in my life? Because the lesson has not been integrated. The script changes actors but keeps the mechanics. The psychopath is a harsh teacher of boundaries. He highlights where you cannot say no, where you are afraid to lose, where you confuse love with dependence, where you endure for the illusion of stability. Without this collision, you would have continued living half asleep. With it, you begin to see the structure. The main lesson? You are not obligated to suffer in order to be valuable. You are not obligated to save anyone. You are not obligated to explain to someone why causing pain is wrong. Some people understand from half a word. Others understand only through losing access to you. And that is normal. First level, boundaries. A boundary is not conflict, it is clarity. A short no, without justifications, without long dialogues, without trying to be convenient. Second level, self-respect above illusion. Better temporary emptiness than constant anxiety. Better solitude than emotional roller coaster. Better honesty than beautiful manipulation. Third level, recognition of modes. Over time, you begin to feel in advance who lives from depth, who lives from reaction, who uses instead of interacts. This is not bitterness. This is precision. How do you leave this story victorious? Complete no contact, not partial, not gradually, complete. Stop explaining. You owe no one proof that you are hurt. Analyze yourself, not him. Write down where you bent, where you were afraid to speak truth, where you ignored red flags. This returns control to the observer. Silence instead of reaction. When there is no reaction, there is no fuel. You leave not hardened. You leave composed, calm, self-contained, more stable. Such people no longer become the center of your life. They are recognized quickly. The psychopath stops being the main character in your story. He becomes an episode. And you become the one who consciously chooses who to allow into your space. This is not about revenge. It is about inner support. You are no longer playing someone else's script. You are writing your own. And now the most important part. Who is an empath? It is not an overly sensitive person, not a victim, not naive. An empath is someone with depth of response, someone who feels not only words, but the pauses between words. Someone who sees not only behavior, but the motive behind behavior. Someone who cannot live in a superficial mode because inside there is an inner compass. And yes, this is about us, about those who ask questions, who are not satisfied with, "This is just how the world works," who seek meaning, structure, truth. What is happening now? If before the empath was told, "Don't imagine things, be simpler, don't feel so strongly," now the opposite is happening. Sensitivity is becoming an advantage, because in a world full of roles and automatism, the ability to feel is a detector. The empath begins to see where there is a script, where there is a mask, where there is coldness, where there is manipulation, where there is real depth. And most importantly, he no longer justifies. Before, the empath tried to understand the psychopath, to save him, to explain to the NPC why it is important to feel. Now, no. Now he builds boundaries, stops arguing with emptiness, stops proving the obvious, stops saving those who never ask to be saved. And here the turning point happens, because the system is used to an empath who tolerates, but it is not ready for an empath who sees. There is nothing more dangerous for any structure than a person with depth who understands roles, distinguishes modes, does not react to provocation, does not respond by the old pattern. The psychopath is powerful only while you do not see the mechanics. The NPC holds you only while you argue. The extra influences you only while you perceive him as significant. But once the soul sees the structure, the game breaks. Not through screaming, not through aggression, but through non-participation. This is not pathos. It is listening to the inner stop, not ignoring the Trevozhny signal, not betraying yourself to preserve connection, choosing honesty over convenience. It is not an emotional impulse. It is precision. When you feel, here it is empty, and you do not try to fill it. Here it is cold, and you do not force warmth. Here it is a game, and you do not enter it. If before we were frightened by psychopaths, scary, manipulative, dangerous, by a harsh world, now it becomes clear. The most frightening thing is awakened consciousness, because it is no longer controlled by fear. An empath who understands their value stops being a resource. They become a point of power. Thank you for being with me on this channel. I wish you the best possible branch of reality. Subscribe to the channel. See you in the next video. Take care.